goodies, hello and welcome to another Wednesday and another episode of AC. That's me talking bowls, which is what I think I'm quite good at the minute, talking bowls. At least I think that's what somebody said to me the other day. Anyway guys, thanks for joining me. Hope you're safe and sound and well and all the rest of it. If you enjoy these videos, please hit that like button, and if you're not already a bowls buddy, please hit the subscribe button. It's absolutely free of charge, and don't forget, click the notification bell for notifications of new content on the channel, which is currently 3 times a week. And I've got a very special announcement. I might just wait to tell you though. I'm a bit of a tease, aren't I? Yeah, been an interesting week. Thank you to everyone who has been in touch following Monday's look back through the archives. I was clearing out some old boxes from the attic, and what did I find? Bassmaster's top shirt and thing. I knew I had it somewhere. I can't find the blue one. I know I give the blue sleeveless pullover away. Dave Waters won it, but yeah, I knew I'd find it. 1996, last ever. Might keep pulling. It's got a funny colour actually as the shirt. It's going to be yellow, and I think I must have grown a bit because it's very short. The top's very short, and I don't think it fits just so. Anyway, by the by, I just thought I'd put it on, and while I'm recording this, I knew a guy who played in the 1995 Bassmasters, and up till 10 years ago he was still wearing his tops, which is interesting. These good players must have an absolute wardrobe full of shirts. I know I've got a few boxes, and a few hung up there behind me that you can't see. BD must have another bedroom full of shirts, unless he donates them to children in need or something, I don't know. Anyway guys, what's on the agenda today? Well, just to catch up really. I noticed some excellent news on Facebook. Laura Hassoun posted that Leeds City Council have decided against closing 50% of the park screens in the Leeds area, which is phenomenal news. All we need to do now is get back bowling and get using them. Who knows when that's going to be. And on a connected topic, it's almost as I've planned it. I said that the BCGBA had cancelled the British Team Championships. Well, it looks like that might be premature. Rather than cancelled, it looks like it's probably going to be postponed till maybe the end of the season if we get going. Nothing definite yet, but that's the word on the grapevine, so that's not bad news at all. And other good news is I've noticed that there's plenty of clubs starting to put out information about competitions that they're planning on running from May onwards. I think it's good that clubs are planning ahead like this and being positive and getting something for us all to look forward to. Worst case scenario, it doesn't happen. Best case scenario, come May, maybe there'll be some leagues starting, there'll be some competitions starting, and we can get back to some normality on the bowling green, which will be absolutely fantastic. Any more good news? I think that's about the good news, all the good news I've got. But before I go over to comment corner, I think I'm going to tell you. Yeah, I'll tell you now. So I've been thinking about content for these videos, and I would love to be out and about, doing a bit of videoing, doing a bit of talking to people, and I think those are the things that you like to watch. One or two of you, months ago actually, have said, well, why don't you interview players and have a chat? So I thought, yeah, why not? So I'm going to do a Zoom interview with somebody on Friday night and edit it all together and put it out for you this time next week on AC Talking Bowls. And I thought, well, who could I ask? Who could I go for? Who would be interesting, funny, who could, you know, join me and be a bit wacky, and I thought nobody can be like me. So I thought, forget that, I'm going to go straight to the very top. And I reached out on Facebook, and we do have a few things in common actually, and I said, would you like to do an interview with me? I said, Andy, not a problem, tell me when and I will be there. So next Wednesday you will be able to see yours truly interviewing the new World Indoor Bowls Champion, the double champion, Mark Dawes. I'll let the applause die down. He's very happy to have an interview. He's nothing else to do, which is a bit like myself. And yeah, so if you have any questions that you might want to ask the double World Indoor Bowls Champion, Mark Dawes, leave me a message, leave me a comment, find me on Facebook, whatever. Get them to me before Friday tea time, because I will be interviewing him on Friday night, 7 o'clock. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'm not sure just what to ask him yet, or how the interview will go, but he's a nice guy, so it can't go wrong, I guess. So get any questions to me by Friday tea time, and I will ask whatever you wish. And you'll be able to see the results next Wednesday. Hopefully this will be the first in a long list of these things. I might not ask the people that you're thinking of. I might just go for a sideways look at bowls, and maybe people who you don't know rather than people that you do know, and get some background. But I want to see how this one goes first, and then I'll take it from there. And I'm open to suggestions on who you would like to see. And every time I do one, I'll let you know, and you will be able to send me questions that I will ask on your behalf, and you will get a shout out, of course. So that's the end of the good news and my news for today. So I think it's time we'll go over to Comment Corner.
Comment Corner.
Okay guys, so I'm looking at the comments from the videos I've released this last week. So we'll start off with the last Wednesdays, and that was the one with the laser measure review. Oh, it just doesn't want, there we go, bit laser measure review. And Mark Burdett was the first one. How do the laser measures work on nearest points when measuring on Camden hills or uneven surfaces, etc.? I believe they don't work. What I might do is I might send them down to Mark and let him do a little bit of research for himself. I had the same doubts, I must admit, but then I thought, well, how often will it be an issue? Not very, unless you're on Camden, of course. But I believe that they will work. So I might send them down to Mark and let Mark do some research for me, because it's a long way for me to travel down there, and also I'm not allowed. So there you go. Michael Opie, great video Andy, just gone a bit bog-eyed. Well, I was talking about science and things. Really enjoyed it, especially after getting diddled a couple of times the other season. Really? Does that go on? Graham Hickey. He knows it goes on. Measuring is nothing to do with the tackle, it's all about who's in charge of the tackle. And if you're in charge of them, Flicker, anything could happen. I'll never forget when you came on measuring, and the bloke I was playing, you were playing on the same team, and the bloke who I was playing, we were only measuring for one. He says, I might go 2 down here with Flicker measuring. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. Charles Cooper, great idea. It brings in another question. Why not use wedges for leaning bowls like other bowling codes? I actually don't think that's a bad idea. I know a lot, again, players who will wait for balls to fall, and I don't think there's anything worse, to be honest, apart from maybe double-handed wafting. But yeah, I wouldn't be against that, and I've seen it, and I've also done it myself. I have stood a ball against another ball to make sure that it doesn't fall over whilst the measures are wandering over. again, I just think it's the sporting thing to do, and I know that a referee would not allow that. We would not countenance that one iota. But for me, sporting. Gary Wallace, another great show, very informative. Only assurance is needed is the expert measures need to understand decimal points. Sure, you have experience in school that kids certainly struggle knowing which numbers are larger and smaller. That is true. Do you know, I never thought of that. I just assumed people would understand bigger and smaller numbers. But maybe you're right, Gary. Maybe that is a flaw. No, I'm sure somebody would have a GCSE to be able to work it out, I guess. Andy Hodgson, really like the laser measure. There can surely be no argument between players when this is used with readings to 3 decimal places. You could even get each player to measure their own ball, and whoever gets the shortest reading wins the end. Bet there wouldn't be many, if any, dead ends. Surely this is the way forward for measuring, and an end to those who, shall we say, try and manipulate the measuring process. That's exactly my point of view, Andy. I think, you know, and when I looked into it, I was unsure about the accuracy. I thought it was plus or minus 3 mil, but it's something like plus or minus 0.03 mil, which is incredible. But yeah, I agree with everything you've said there, Andy. That's exactly how I see it. And then we'll move on to Monday's episode of the Bowlers World Archives, and Eric Holmes says this: "You're right, Andy. Being a qualifier at Bass was a carrot to sponsors who wanted to get a mention on TV. I was involved in a qualifier for many years at Cleckheaton, and the winner getting into the Bass attracted bowlers from all over the north, as well as from locals who wanted to test themselves against the big names of the time." And that for me was the key to competition bowling. You had the guys who went all over on the circuit, as we used to call it, but you'd also come up against some really good locals, and they were the ones that really tested your mettle. Kieran O'Prey, that young man from Huddersfield, they're all fair draws at the Griffin until we realise someone has their name down twice and have to start again. Yes, that does happen an awful lot. Every week? No, every other week. You mentioned that in the early days the Talbot final was broadcast on radio. Do you think it would be possible to get hold of? Can't imagine how bowls would sound on the radio. Hope you're keeping well. Yeah, the Talbot, going back into the 1930s, was broadcast live over radio, and I think in the mid-60s, Bill Dauber won it. I think that was actually shown on television. There was the TUC Trade Secretary at the time did the commentary. I'm not sure the guy's name, I'm not sure the year either. I remember reading about it. Now, I had a quick look on the BBC archives, and they do have an awful lot of programmes that you can access, but I've got the feeling that it's not all online yet. If you imagine how the archives that they have must be enormous. But I haven't been able to get my hands on anything yet. I only had a quick look last night, Kieran, but I'd love to hear it. I've got some old Pathé News footage of the Talbot, which I might put on at a later date. I'm still meaning to do an episode just about the Talbot, but I'm a busy man, what can I say? I've got lessons to teach. Dave Parkin. This is quite a long one, but I think it's worth me reading out. Granada merged with Yorkshire Tyne Tees in 1997, and their views of sports changed. Bowls, despite being popular in Yorkshire, was seen as a Granada thing and lost out, sadly, to lesser known sports. ITV also dumped athletics in 1997 too. Elton Welsby was a big loser in this and retreated from the screens to Century Radio in Manchester, where he had a weekend show. Elton was a customer of mine in Hedgewall in the early noughties, and I helped him out with some sponsorship for his son. He was bowling for Hedgewall RBL thirds whilst being mentored by Alf McDermott. So there you go. I knew Elton played a bit, and last time I saw him it was when he did the Waterloo back in the noughties. And you're absolutely right. Yeah, Granada, when they did all this merging with all these other companies, yeah, they just lost interest in bowls. Despite the fact that on their 10-year renewal bid, they did mention bowls specifically as something for the local community, and then they literally dropped it the year after. And the ironic thing is they got really good viewing figures for bowls, and that's without having Yorkshire never got the Bassmasters and any of the others, and neither did the central area and the other regions. It was just basically Granada. But you know, it's what's gone's gone, and it just won't come back onto Granada. ITV4, obviously we got the Waterloo on there, and that's probably our best bet. The number of channels that there are out there now is enormous, and there must be a home for us somewhere, you would like to think. Gary Nicholson, great vlog again, Andy. It's my birthday on Thursday, so I'll watch Wednesday's vlog with a beer. Keep it up, mate, doing a great job. Gary, thank you very much. My bowls buddy from down in Coventry. Happy birthday for tomorrow, 21 again, no doubt. Have a beer for me, please. Nick Hopwood, originally from Royton and now living on the Fylde coast. Great again, Andy. Seeding was always prevalent in most comps, but a lot of organisers had egg on their faces when it went wrong and the minnows or unknowns got through. I've seen it many times. Yes, as have I, and I've been on the end of some of those, and I've also caused some of those. Certainly in the start of my career, I did sort of upset the apple cart quite a few times. I can remember beating some real top names in qualifiers to go in final days, and I remember the organisers not being particularly happy, shall we say. Beating Norman Fletcher at the King Queen's, I think in the 4th round, the 5th round, to go into the last day. I remember that not being a good move on my part. Oh well, it wasn't for my part, but it wasn't for the competition. And then finally the last one today, oh no it's not, second to last one, Paul Hargreaves, my bowls buddy pal from Burnley. Yes, Andy, the loss of bass, probably as much as the BBC pulling out of the Waterloo about 6 years previously, it was a massive and long-lasting blow to the sport. Don't you think though that it's a sad commentary on the strength and robustness of Crown Green bowls that a single decision by a regional TV company could have such a cataclysmic effect? I agree with 50% of what you've said there. The Waterloo last shown on the BBC in 1989 when Brian Duncan won it again for I think it was the 4th time, wasn't it? BBC was a big blow specifically to the Waterloo, and entries slowly started dropping after that. I mean, it took a few years, but I mean, I won it in 97, there was still 2,000 entries in there, so maybe end of the 90s it started its slow decline to where it is now. The fact that the bass was still there, despite the Waterloo being on satellite TV for a couple of years, wasn't a big blow to the game as a whole, but it was specifically to the Waterloo, I think. Regarding Granada pulling out coverage of the bass, yes, it was a local channel, but it was the only channel that was showing Crown Green bowls. It was the last bastion, and I think if I put it, let's put it in this way, the PDC are doing great at the minute with darts. Now if Sky Sports pulled out of darts, which they won't because it makes them money, but let's say that for whatever reason they fell out with darts and pulled out, I honestly think the PDC would struggle in the same way. Getting that level of coverage is a big thing. It's difficult to get, and also it's the PDC is a bad analogy because they're a very, very well run organisation. They wouldn't let that happen. Whereas Crown Green bowls, early 80s, a lot of money came in, a lot of competition suddenly started up and developed and turned into this big circuit, but there was nobody controlling it. There was nobody in charge. Organisers ran competitions to suit them and their sponsors, and it didn't matter to them if there were 3 and 4 competitions clashing on the same finals. On the same finals day. But those clashes caused problems. It meant players chased the money. It meant players did dishonest things, throwing games so they could get to another venue and still get the prize money from the first venue. And it didn't sit well with sponsors. It didn't sit well with organisers. What it needed, and hindsight is a wonderful thing, and you can all sit at home and go, yes Andy, yes that's right. It needed somebody to control it. I know the TPA started up, but they didn't really control anything. It was just a group of players who, they had a ranking system, etc. What it needed was somebody to say to these organisers, right, don't run it on that day because XYZ's happening. Don't run it then, XYZ's happening. And I know Arthur Land used to try and help organisers with that. And if organisers were hell-bent on having that particular day because that's what the sponsor wanted, then so be it. But you don't see events clashing like that in other sports, and that was a real big problem. It was a massive problem. It was just allowed to happen organically, and it made it messy. It made it really messy. And when the BAS went, there was no reason for these competitions to happen, so they went. And I wonder, again hindsight, I wonder if somebody had just grasped, maybe British Crown Green could have done a bit more. You know, they give out these competition certificates, but what do they mean? What do they stop people from running competitions on their days that only affect so many people, but they didn't stop other competitions clashing. There's just no control. Lack of control is what I'm saying, and it was a mess. It was a mess back then. I can remember pre-internet days, you could get away with doing the odd dodgy thing. You could get away with throwing a game. It's not hard to lose a game on purpose, especially if the money's right. That doesn't help us as a game. It doesn't help our image as a game. But we are working class people with large amounts of money coming into the game, and it makes you do silly things. We were unprofessional. Not everyone. There were a few players got banned for doing things like that. I'm not going to name any names. I could tell you lots of tales, but I won't because they're still alive and I don't think it's fair. So the BAS was the best thing that happened. It was also not a good thing. It would have been if it had been controlled, if the competition circuit side of things had been controlled, and it wasn't. God, I've waffled on there, haven't I? I don't know if I've answered any of your questions there, but I just think the loss of that last bastion of televised Crown Green Bowls was massive, and when you add everything up, you know, take all the television away, it leaves a big hole. And just out of interest, the very last Wednesday Waterloo that was shown on the BBC had the highest ratings for any sporting event on BBC Two that year, and the following year they didn't show it on the Wednesday because they had a sponsorship deal with the golf, the PGA, and they had to show a competition that had been moved into September from earlier in the year, and they couldn't show it on the time it should have been shown, so that's why it ended really, which was a massive shame. But yeah, it used to get massive viewing figures on it because every bowler in the country, not just the northwest, in the country used to tune in. So, and finally Keegan, Sounds like 1977, I can't read. 1997 was a good year for you, Andy. Is your Waterloo victory available to watch on YouTube? Unfortunately not. To my knowledge, it was never filmed. There was a guy from Cumbria whose name escapes me at the minute. He used to film events around that time, and through a friend of a friend, he said that he'd actually got it, and the guy came round with this videotape and put it in, and it wasn't. It was the 1998 when Mick Jagger won it. So no, I've never seen it. I don't think it was videoed, and believe me, if I had it, it would be on YouTube, and I'd be putting a new version on every day. Don't worry about that. But it's still up here. It's still up there, and it'll be a memory that lasts forever. So there we go. Right, I'm going to leave it there, guys, because I've waffled on for 26 minutes. Don't forget to get your questions to me before Friday tea time. And if you have any other comments, questions, anything, just get in touch, leave a comment down below, and don't forget to like the video if you've enjoyed it. So guys, I'll say goodbye. Hope to see you on Monday on with the Bowlers World Archives. On Friday, brand new video, the 1984 Bass Masters final, Brian Duncan versus Peter Richardson. I'd not seen it up until getting my hands on this particular disc, so I think you'll enjoy it. Thank you to Stuart Kenyon, top bowls buddy. I need to get them back to you as well. I'll be in touch. So I'll say goodbye. Stay safe, guys. Keep the masks on. Think about the summer, and join me next week, please. Goodbye for now. See you soon. Bye.